Do you remember when John Osteen was afraid to fly?
Yeah.
And he finally decided, he got into a place where he couldn't get there on a train, he had to fly.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, this is my Bible. I can do what it says I can do. I have what it says I have, and I can do it. And I can do all things Christ strengthens me. And he said he got on there, but he got there safely. Oh, and the devil said, I'm going to kill you on the way home. No.
Joel Osteen is a prominent American pastor, televangelist, and author known for leading one of the largest congregations in the United States, Lakewood Church, based in Houston, Texas. Founded by his father, John Osteen, in 1959, Lakewood Church transitioned to Joel Osteen's leadership in 1999, following his father's death. Under Joel's leadership, the church has grown exponentially, now boasting a weekly attendance of around 52,000, and millions more via television and online platforms. Lakewood Church's services are broadcasted globally, reaching an estimated 100 countries. The church operates out of the former Compaq Center, a 16,800-seat arena, and is often completely filled. The facility also hosts numerous outreach programs, including support for the homeless, disaster relief, and community development initiatives. Osteen's ministry extends beyond the pulpit through his numerous best-selling books. Titles such as Your Best Life Now and Become a Better You emphasize his central themes of faith and positivity. Osteen has become a core component of the NAR network due to his spreading of the prosperity gospel. It is for that very reason that critics and Christian apologists believe that Osteen preaches a different gospel than that of traditional Christianity, arguing that his teachings emphasize prosperity and personal success at the expense of established theological doctrines. What many critical articles often fail to mention is that the Osteen family has deep roots in the latter rain movement and that Joel's father held close ties to key figures in William Branham's inner circle. How did such a massive church develop from the healing revivals of the late 1940s and 1950s? When did John Osteen connect with William Branham? To find out, we must examine the little-known history of an evangelist called Chaplain Ray, and one of the most publicized murder trials of the 1960s.
Man, this is what I want to see. Lord, I want to see a revival. I want to see signs and wonders and miracles. Lord, I ask you to equip each person watching with the faith to step out, the vision to embrace, and to confer with man no longer. Whatever God says for you to do, go do it and let God use you to bring revival.
Raymond Hoekstra, also known as Chaplain Ray, was a Pentecostal minister with deep connections to William Branham for multiple decades. He is remembered for creating unbelievable stage acts, such as The Atom and the Faith Healer, Little David Walker, and William Branham, which featured a levitating walker. Branham likely met Hoekstra in the revival circuit that included the Midway Gospel Tabernacle, which Branham attended during a convention held September 17 through 23, 1934. Branham often described this event and the Midway Church during his fictional life story accounts, never mentioning Hoekstra and untruthfully claiming that he had never experienced Pentecostalism or divine healing. Yet Branham was a bishop in a Pentecostal church in the same revival circuit. According to eyewitnesses at the revivals, Branham drove a panel truck with advertisements about his healing revivals. In 1936, the revival at Midway Gospel Tabernacle was led by Raymond Hoekstra. Shortly after, Hoekstra was chosen to be head pastor of the Fletcher Pentecostal Church in Indianapolis. Under Hoekstra's leadership, the congregation quickly outgrew the church, and the white frame building was replaced by a larger cinder block church, renamed the Calvary Tabernacle. He also launched the Calvary Christian School, a respected apostolic training center. Pentecostal evangelist and future General Superintendent of the UPCI, Nathaniel Urshan, was the assistant pastor. Urshan toured with William Branham in the late 1940s in the Branham-Urshan Healing Campaign.
William Branham, same thing. He experienced the third dimension where God used him in such ways. I have videos of it, and I sit and tremble watching that man being used. Details about people, I mean details. William Branham is his name. William Branham was preaching, my dear, when a halo appeared over his head, preaching in Louisiana. You can look him up on YouTube, it'll shake you up.
When Branham's famous halo photograph was at risk of being exposed by James Ayers and his transgender nephew, Leslie Douglas Ashley, during Ashley's highly publicized murder trial, Hoekstra helped organize the response from the Pentecostal community. Hoekstra spearheaded the Mercy for Ashley Lima committee. This group aimed to prevent the execution of Leslie Douglas Ashley and Carolyn Lima, who were convicted of murdering real estate tycoon Fred Tomes during a days-long sexual encounter. The committee, comprising around 500 members from across Texas, organized public prayer meetings to advocate for clemency. Joel Osteen's father, John Osteen, assisted Hoekstra. Despite the controversy raised due to the nature of the crime, Hoekstra became recognized as a minister for prisoners. In 1972, Hoekstra established his organization, the International Prison Ministry. But why was John Osteen working with William Branham and Raymond Hoekstra to rescue a transgender killer from death row?
There's a whole generation, there's a whole culture that wants wants men and women to be interchangeable. In order for men and women to be interchangeable, you have to masculinize women, you have to feminize men, because the LGBTQ, and adding some more letters, activists want us to believe that you can have two mommies or two daddies, and that's a normal family.
For a joint operation between several latter-rain, Pentecostal, and charismatic leaders, the effort to save Leslie Douglas Ashley and Carolyn Lima from death row was both a success and a disaster. When it was learned that Ashley was transgender and that Lima was his partner in an act of prostitution that resulted in a murder, many people began to question why the religious leaders pushed so hard to stay the execution. Even among non-religious people of the era, their lifestyle was strongly condemned. However, John Osteen was indebted to the leaders of the group. When Osteen's ministry was failing, the Full Gospel Business Men's Fellowship International came to his aid, funding his tent ministry and teaching him how to turn revivals into profit. Many of the men in Branham's inner circle were members of the Full Gospel Businessmen, including Ashley's stepfather, James Ayers. Ayers had captured Branham's halo photograph, and both Ashley and Ayers worked for the photography studio of Ted Kipperman, Ashley's uncle and Ayers' brother-in-law. Though it was a risk, Osteen likely felt as if he had no choice but to help the transgender individual. Their execution was stayed, though not through the efforts of Chaplain Ray and John Osteen. Branham, whose cult following believed him to be the return of the Old Testament prophet Elijah, apparently convinced Ashley to start his own evangelistic ministry and to make a similar claim. When Ashley testified that he was the return of Elijah to bless God's people, his execution was stayed on grounds of insanity. Ashley recorded what sounded like a forced conversion to Christ for the group and went on to become a leader in the LGBTQ community in Houston. Many apostles and prophets of the NAR today position themselves strongly against LGBTQ individuals, describing it as a political agenda. Some go so far as to refuse help to people in the LGBTQ community and direct their churches to pronounce condemnation and judgment against them. What you won't hear from these so-called apostles and prophets is the tale of how one single transgender individual became the center of attention simply for having inside knowledge about the photograph they claim to be a halo.